in the main event on Saturday. It's Dricus Du Plessis. How did I do on your name? Because I think everyone does it just like a little bit different.
You absolutely nailed it.
Oh, hell yes, brother.
Dricus Du Plessis, nailed it. But I love the introduction. Undefeated, main event, Saturday night. Now I only need you to not say challenger and say champion. Then I'll be over the moon.
That's up to you, though. I did my part. That's yours. You know?
That's my job. Yeah. That's my job.
Yeah, I did my part. I got your name right. Exactly. It's like, I'm going to give this.
The fact that you got my name right means you're good at your job.
All right. You know what? Clip that, Armin. Put that there. See? That's proof for him, for the production staff. Okay, so let's start with this, brother. I just saw a video of you shaking hands with Sean Strickland. It was like, that was the last video I saw of the two of you was fighting in the stands. What has changed?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, this is never personal. So, what happened in the stands was a situational thing where, obviously I bruised his ego in the press conference. Then we had the night after that, we had the event.
Yeah.
And, so there was a lot of boiled up emotion in him. And, I took advantage of that. And what happened. I mean, we are two warriors. We are two gladiators. And if you put them in that close proximity, well, especially when one's ego is hurt, that's going to be two alphas trying to fight to see whose territory it is. But it was never personal. I have no animosity towards him. And this wasn't us becoming friends. This was us. It was an honor among thieves. This was us walking. I walked into the hotel. I saw him. I walked to him. And if we were going to fight again, I don't know how he's going to react. If he still has that insecurity, we're going to fight right now. And I'm going to face you and we're going to do it. Or we're going to shake hands and settle this on Saturday night, because then we can both get paid and, we can do what we're here for.
So
it was we shook hands. We agreed that Saturday night is the night where we're going to do this, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, it does seem like the fight in the stands was legit, though. Like it wasn't a work.
Oh, 100%. Well, if it was, some people said that it was staged, and I was just thinking, guys, if it was staged, please, next time you want to stage something like this, please let me know as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty unfair if one guy knows about it and one guy doesn't. Mm-hmm. But no, it was. There was 100%. That was 100%. What happened. Wasn't the best example we said, and that's one thing I am sorry for. But these things happen. We all make mistakes, and we all, at the end of the day, sometimes emotions take over.
So I've seen you in other interviews, right? And like you said, good at my job, watching some other clips of you and getting prepared for this, and watched you at media conferences before. And you seem very calm for a guy that's heading into such a big fight for his career. Like, this is going to be your first 5-round fight. This is going to be your first championship fight in the UFC. You are carrying that weight of undefeated. I'm curious, has this always been who you are? Is this something that you've developed as a fighter? Because, even talking to you now, it seems like, you've got nothing going on this week. You're just like, I'm home, chilling. It's like, no, you're in Toronto to fight for a championship belt.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a bit of both. I get those nerves like everybody else. I get extremely anxious, but not in a bad way. Not the anxious, not to outwit. I get that same feeling in me. It's about how I react to that. I know I'm here for a fight, and I feel the exact same way. People say, no, you look so calm when you get in there. And I go, in me, I feel the exact same anxiety, or call it anxiety, call it nerves, that I felt in my very first ever professional fight when I was 19 years old. When I was 19 years old, I was a kid, and I didn't have the mental training. I didn't have the mental toughness yet to know exactly how to deal with it. So, I was just taking it on the stride, and as experience became a part of my game, I had more fights, more title fights, had a lot of fights finally, beating a guy like Robert Whittaker on a big card, fighting on International Fight Week 3 times. That gave me a kind of mental grit, and obviously focusing on mental training a lot, the mental aspect of the game. It doesn't take away the fear, it doesn't take away the anxious feelings, no. But what it does, it gives me the tools necessary mentally to deal with it, and in the correct way.
I think that's really insightful. I will say this, too, is I think that's relatable to all walks of life. But I'm especially fascinated by it when it comes to fighters.
100%.
But because, as much as we might we might use these things like it's always a euphemism for us where it's like, I'm going into war today at work. It's like, no, you're not. I'm going to go do a podcast. It's like, it's not a battle. Your thing is a true battle. Like you are going to close a cage and have to fight another human being in a very, very dangerous way. And so, yes, as you just said, a lot of this comes from just experience, right? But how much of that mental training is things that you've actually practiced outside of just gaining confidence through winning fights?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm giving that the experience. I'll give credit to 50%. The mental training with my mental coaches, so all experience, my whole 10 years career, I would give 50% to my mental strength. Then the other, no, I'll take that back. I'll give 25% to that. The other 50% I'll give to my upbringing. I'll give it to where I'm from. I'll give it to my father, my brother, installing this in me, showing me how a man should be, showing me that regardless of the situation, there's always a solution to any problem, and that things aren't always going to be perfect, but it's about how you react to them that's going to make them perfect. And the other 25% is the mental exercises, the talking to my mental coach, being present in the situation and accepting the fact that there is fear going into a fight, always. The fear of failure, the fear of losing, the fear of humiliation, all that, and dealing with that within you, and making sure that fear doesn't take over and that you react to that accordingly. It's not the fact that you can make it go away, but it's the fact that you can accept that it's there and deal with it.
See, that's the part that I think that people should be applying. Because I feel like a lot of people think that
100%.
you don't feel the fear, that you don't acknowledge the fear, or that, there's something in a guy like you that does something like that. And they say, well, I'm scared, so I'm a coward. But this guy, he's brave. It's like, no, the bravery is your ability to push past that and to actually be able to say, I accept these things that they're happening, but I'm still going to try. I'm not going to let that stop me from doing the thing that I want to accomplish. And I think that a lot of us, and myself included in many different ways in my life, this has been this way. But sometimes that fear can be debilitating, and it can stop you from the thing. So yeah, that's really interesting and really insightful. So yeah, the actual physical part of this, or maybe they're just tied in together, but you haven't fought more than 3 rounds in the UFC, and I'm curious how much your training regimen has been altered with this being a championship fight. Because yeah, and again, in another interview I saw with you with Ariel Helwani, you talked about how, hey, everyone's talking about his pace. I got a pretty damn good pace too. And if people saw the Whitaker fights, like the way you finished that thing off, it's like, that's a lot of pace. That's a lot of pace. Do you feel as though you were always kind of prepared? Like, do you normally prepare as though it's going to go deeper in a fight? How has this one been different from a training standpoint, from a cardio standpoint, so that you can, maintain that level?
Yeah, the way I would explain it is it's a 5-rounder, so immediately everything you do goes 5 instead of 3.
Mm-hmm.
But in the way we prepared, like I said, I've been a title fight before the UFC. So for the past 2.5 years, I've been in the UFC preparing for 3-rounders. But for 6 years before that, since I was since 20 years old, I've only had 5-round fights. For 6 years, 5-round fights is the only fight I had, and that gave me the ability to know that what it feels like to prepare for 5 rounds, which is different. And but at the end of the day, you have to realize in a 5-round fight, there's still around 1, 2, and 3, and in a 3-round fight, there's around 1, 2, and 3. And if you lose round 1, you have to win round 2 and 3. You have to, otherwise you're losing that fight. If I spend time worrying about round 4 and 5, and I lose round 1 and 2, I have to win round 3, 4, and 5. You don't want to be in that situation. It's about taking it in the stride, winning every minute, winning every round, regardless of how dominant. And if the finish presents itself, you take that opportunity. You take the opportunity given to you at any time in a fight, because you don't know if you're going to get it again. Because at this level, there are very few mistakes. At this level, there are very few opportunities to finish a fight. So creating those opportunities, working for them, and as soon as they present themselves, not thinking about, I'm not going to go for the finish, because if your opponent's hurt in the first, I'm not going to not go for a finish because there's around 4 and 5. No. I'm concentrating on the round I'm in. And approaching each round and giving my full attention to that round. because otherwise you see people not pulling the trigger because they're waiting for round 4 and 5, and then it's too late.
Again, I like that answer too. It's just like, hey, tackle what is directly in front of you. So there's a feeling that we have as Canadians. We're self-conscious about something, which is the weather, right? We always want people to not just obsess over how cold it is here, but then it seems like when we host,
I don't know why I love it.
Okay, well that's nice of you to say to it, because here's the thing. Whenever it seems like a lot of times when we host major events, like we had the NBA All-Star Weekend a few years back, and of course the NBA All-Star Weekend ends up falling on what is the coldest week of the year, and we've actually had like a very mild winter. It hasn't been very cold at all, and then of course the UFC is in town, and you arrive, a guy from South Africa. And boom, it's freezing. All of a sudden, we get our blizzards, we get our cold. You love it? You've been in, like, what have you been doing? You've been doing stuff outside? Have you been stapled inside?
Yeah. I mean, I've been outside. I went to swim in Lake Ontario.
No, you didn't. You went swimming in Lake Ontario?
Embedded episode 2.
Swimming?
Yeah, I went in there and I went for a swim. It was the coldest experience I've had in my whole life.
Oh, yeah.
I almost died. But it was like minus 11 degrees on the beach. And, when it broke like glass as I walked on the beach. The beach was frozen solid.
Yeah.
I went into the water, took a dive. Everybody went into like their hips. I dove in 2-3 degree water. I do that at home in a cold plunge, but I didn't consider the fact that after a cold plunge at home, it's 40 degrees Celsius outside.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, now it was minus 11, and I get out, and by the time I get out of the water, my hair is frozen solid. Completely.
Yeah.
And this is... Now I can't time. I'm trying to put on my pants. I put my pants on. I put my jacket on, but I can't put my shoes on. My feet are basically freezing off.
Yeah.
And I can't put my shoes on, and because now my shoelaces are still tied from when I took them off, and I can't use my fingers. It's too cold. And I just realized this is a big problem. Like somebody had to untie my shoes, and then I'm thinking, I don't know how long it takes for somebody's fingers to fall off, and I have a fight. My coach is going to kill me.
That's the way I'm looking at this.
I just went home. It took me an hour to warm up.
Yeah.
It was a 7-minute walk back to the car from the beach.
Yeah, you really didn't think this through,
right? Yeah,
like for a guy with all this preparation,
we didn't.
I'm like, wow, this guy's so thoughtful,
and
he's really preparing mentally.
I know it's going to be cold, and then you're going to get out. But I didn't realize the real cold starts when you get out, because back home it's different. It's cold in the water, and then it's warm outside.
Yeah.
This is completely different. The water was much warmer than the outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, mistakes were made and lessons were learned.
Yeah. You know what, though? I can only, because I think about how, who was it? It was Tony Ferguson who slipped on cables, right? Behind the stage or something. They were promoting a UFC event with him and who was it? It was Habib. It was the two of them. It was supposed to be a big super fight. Yeah, everybody was all excited for it. I cannot imagine what the headlines would have been like. Dricus went for a swim in Lake Ontario and he got frostbite and he's out of the fight. That was so possible.
Imagine that. Like that was going through my mind. I didn't even care about the headlines. I just cared about my coach is going to, because he wasn't here yet. That was the day he was on his way here. You would have murdered me if that was the case.
Yes.
I would have been, the amount of preparation, how the measurements we went through to make sure that I don't get injured for this fight and that we manage every single thing perfectly. And I go and jump in a lake for a joke, and that happens. And that would have been bad. I would have probably gotten on a plane immediately and try to get back home before he gets to me.
Hey man, I'm glad you're all right. I'm glad that this fight is still a go. And again, it's this Saturday, UFC 297. You can watch the prelims starting at 8 p.m. on Sportsnet 360. Stream the pay-per-view prelims on Sportsnet Plus, which everybody should have. That's with your standard or your premium subscription. And of course, the main card is available to order and stream on Sportsnet Plus at an additional cost. No subscription required. Visit www.sportsnetplus.ca/UFC to purchase. Dricus, thanks so much for the time, man. Good luck in the fight.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Take care.